Hello everyone. This video is going to be about just a little bit more in-depth explanation of the Array.forEach method because it's a method that is very useful that once you get it down you'll find yourself using it all the time, but in my experience I found that people oftentimes are confused by it and don't really understand how it works or why it works. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time and talk a little bit more about this. I'm planning to go over this in class, but this way you'll have this video kind of as a refresher, if you will, as something you can refer back to. So let's look at the docs real quick. JS-4Each MDN. So let's just read what this does. The for each method executes a provided function once for each array element. Array 1 has three items, A, B, and C, and you can see in here, array 1, so it's just called on the actual array, dot for each, and there's the outer parentheses, and then inside of there is a function. You pass a function as the argument to the for each. Now this function has one parameter, and that parameter for each item in here will be the thing. So the first time this runs, the parameter will be passed A. The second time it runs, the parameter will be passed B. And then all this is going to do is do whatever is inside the code block to each of those things. So for this example, because there's three items, A, B, C, this function will take in A, and then it will console.log A. Then it will take in B, and then it will console.log B, so on and so forth. So let's look at a less contrived example. Let's say that you had an array, const myArray, or actually let's call it something a little bit more named, numbers. Const numbers equals, it's just going to be an array of numbers. And let's say that this is just a bunch of numbers that we need to add together. So 1, 5, 10, 76, 34, 42, whatever, bunch of numbers. So let's say we wanted to add these together. One way you could add these together would be a for loop, because we don't know how many numbers are going to be in here, so we can't just do it manually or something. So let's say that this numbers will kind of fluctuate. Sometimes they'll be 2, sometimes they'll be 1,000, whatever. So one way we could do this would be a for loop. For let I equal 0, I is less than numbers dot length, I plus plus, and then in here we would add them together. So let's make a let total equal 0. So we're going to initialize a constant, and then inside of here we could say number total plus equal to numbers I. Then after we're done, console.log total. Let's just see if this works. There we go, 168. That looks about right if I'm estimating. So will this work? Sure, you can do that if you wanted to. However, there's an easier and better way to do this. So I'm just going to comment this out using the for each. Instead, you can do numbers.forEach and then pass a function in there. Now I'm going to show you real quick like a little broken out way to do this to make it a little bit easier to understand, but this is generally not how you're going to do it in the real world. So to make it easier to understand, let's create a new function. Const add to total is going to be a function, and it's going to take one parameter, number to add, and then all it's going to do is do total plus equals number to add. You can see this is the same thing here. This is just in a function. And then inside of the for each, we're going to add to total. Then let's save this, run it again, and you can see it works the exact same. So right now, this is more code than this is. It is, honestly, it's a little bit easier to understand than this because we're not having to deal with numbers I and things like that. But I don't see why you would do it like this any better than this. But here's where the magic comes in. And this is how you will almost always see for each. Instead of creating a named function and then calling that named function, you will almost always just see an anonymous function. By anonymous function, I mean you're not creating this constant. Instead, you are just writing the function right here, where you have your arrow function. You just define it right there. Inside of here is going to be the item. You might put num, or you might put number, or number to add, whatever you want to call it. And then inside the body, you just do total plus equal num. Now let's run it one more time, and you can see it still works the exact same. And this is a lot quicker, a lot easier to write. And once you understand for each, it makes perfect sense. Honestly, I like this. This makes a lot more sense to me than these for loops, than the for loop does. And a couple more things I want to talk about with the for each is that you have additional options. By default, the only required argument here is this callback function, and the only required thing in there, and honestly this isn't necessarily required, but you're almost always going to have it, is the element, is the thing. However, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that the callback function can have additional options. It can, the second thing will be the index of the element, and the third thing will be the actual array itself. So there are times when you might need those. So let's go ahead and use those. So let's go ahead and, let's see, we can leave all that. Okay, number, and this next one will be the index, and the last one will be the original array. So see that I'm putting these inside of the callback function, inside of the function I'm creating. So you, let's see, my array.forEach, and then instead of just doing that, we might say console.log the item, or the number is number, which is at index in the following array, original array. Now, think about what you expect to happen. We know that number is going to be the item, index is going to be the index of that item, and actually to make this a little bit easier, let's make these larger numbers so that we don't get confused. So the number, there's first number, second number, which is at the index, which is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, in the following original array, and that should just be the entire array. Let's try it and see what happens. The number is 14, which is at index 0 in the following array, and it just gives you the array. So you have those additional parameters you can use if you need to, but you are not required to. Honestly, you're not required to use any of them. You can just do nothing and just have it run once for each time. Console.log for each ran. Run it, and you can see that it ran 4 times, once for each element in this array. Just be aware that if you don't do that, you have no access to what the actual thing is. So you're almost never going to do it like this, but you can if there is a time that you need to. And that is it for this video. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. I'm happy to help. Thanks.